so very glad to be here this morning to talk about something that really touches my heart. I have to admit this morning that I thank Rod Richards for many of the words and thoughts that I'm going to share with you this morning. And I thank you for being here with me this morning. I know there's a big activity going on in Helena, and I appreciate your presence. What is the opposite of loneliness? I don't think there's a word for the opposite of loneliness that fits precisely, but I think one might come close. Belonging. I truly believe in my heart that we all long to belong. Not that belonging arrives for us without its set of complexities. Belonging, after all, has more than one meaning. Belonging can refer to being included in a group of people who are in this together, who are on the same team. And it can also refer to possessions, to ownership. My belongings, that belongs to me. Does that belong to you? In the attempt to overcome loneliness, to attain a sense of belonging, there can be sometimes, depending on what is required of us to belong, there can be a movement from being accepted by a group or a community to a relationship that may be more accurately described as being owned by and said group or person or community. Like when groups become insular, shielding themselves against any critique from the outside. When groups demand unquestioning loyalty. When insiders are protected to a fault. When outsiders are dismissed to a fault. When these things occur, one must ask just what belonging means. Which belonging are we talking about? You see, belonging, even in its healthiest expression, always requires something of us. If only, please hear this, if only the willingness on our own part to be accepted. That in itself takes work to accept for ourselves the acceptance that is offered. Belonging, yes, always requires something. The question is, what is it? Some of you may be aware of a certain suspicion around joining that is, or at least has been, characteristic of Unitarian Universalists. Grounded in the self-reliant tradition given expression in the work of Ralph Waldo Emerson, and trusting an individual's lived experience as the sacred text from which to make meaning, we tend to be a little wary of groups, even our own. Speaking very generally, of course, please hear that, generally, you don't know how to feel about joining, especially about joining something called a religious community. It smacks of conformity, compromise, conversion. People may have had experiences joining other organizations, groups, communities in their lives, where they came to realize that what was required was to believe something or pretend to believe something that they weren't able to believe. An experience of belonging slowly changed into an experience of displacement. They realized that to be true to themselves, they had to be themselves within the group, to be honest and authentic. Are you hearing a requirement? And to do that was to put them somehow at odds with the requirements or expectations of belonging to that group. This has led some people to a decision to either never join another group or to only join groups from whom nothing was required, thus maintaining their individual integrity. It doesn't. After all, speak to that innate longing to belong. And I believe that's real. And I suspect it's something that resides within all of us. And again, belonging always requires something. Our first principle says that we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Many have pointed out that this principle, given that it's often offered in isolation from the others, and given its pride of place, our number one principle, is problematic in valuing the individual over and above the community. Everyone can see where rampant, unchecked individualism has brought us. And pulling back just a little, I have to wonder how else can we truly affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, but in community. Through compromise and covenant and commitment to a greater good, by nurturing spiritual growth and practicing justice. Is this principle talking about my inherent worth and dignity? You betcha. And also about yours, 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 yours. Once again, I must face up to the fact that it's not all about me. It's about belonging to something bigger. It's about people, an abundance of people who are in this together, looking to create and sustain a congregation, a community, a society, a world that truly honors the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Any tiny shred of doubt any of us may have had about whether or not this is important should be swept away by the ongoing news of harassment, intimidation, discrimination, and humiliation suffered by individuals and marginalized groups in our communities and in the wider world. One of the expectations for those who have come to feel that they belong is to make someone else feel like they belong. It may be someone just walking in our doors, maybe someone who's been coming for a while, but is a little unsure about where or if they fit. It may be someone not yet here or has been here for years and suddenly feels displaced. I'm not saying that everyone is necessarily going to want to belong to this place, but we can make the opportunity available. If you felt accepted when you came, that acceptance can also be for another. And it doesn't end there, and with only us. At our best, belonging here will not disconnect us from the world out there, but will connect us in a powerful and positive way. Let's look for a moment at the words of Mark Morrison Reed, and I really like these words. The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There's a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us that we're not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a much larger community. The religious community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength too limited to do all that needs to be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed. This is not a bad measure for the health as a community. This isn't a bad measure for the health of our definition of belonging. And at best, belonging here will widen your vision and renew your strength. At our best, our vision is not narrowed by being together, but widened. And widening our vision does not mean that every opinion, perspective, approach, or priority is equal. It does not mean we don't commit ourselves to action based on our own understanding. There are those things which affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence, and those things which don't. It is our responsibility to speak out and sometimes act out and always live out our principles as best we can. I realize that my vision alone is too narrow, that there are things of which I'm not aware that can cause me to inadvertently or carelessly betray my own highest aspirations. Relying on you and others that I encounter appears to be a necessity in widening my vision. And remember, our strength is renewed in this. Belonging should offer renewal. I know that many of us are deeply troubled by what's happening in the world right now, saddened by ugly trends and fearful of the future, and that leaves us feeling exhausted and drained. Belonging can offer renewal. I hope that belonging, knowing that there are people, an abundance of people who are in this together, helps to strengthen our spirit. I hope that the tiny circles we create and pull around ourselves, tiny groups that make us feel loved and safe and part of something, I hope they help to renew each of us when life just plain is overwhelming. And I hope that we have a sense of the gift that our congregation here is to the world. Thank you, ACLU, for being here this morning. And I hope that this all spills over into a clear understanding of the importance of our participation, each of us, in keeping this congregation alive, vibrant, and engaged. And I hope that whatever good we find here, we will find a way to share that in the wider world. This congregation, UUFB Bozeman, to which we belong, is not a given. It only exists through those who choose to make it so. We who belong. We don't wish to lose this web we're in, this elusive, indefinable opposite of loneliness. A belonging which requires that we commit and practice honoring the dignity and worth of every person, including ourselves, who chooses to enter into our loving, welcoming community, Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Bozeman. So be it.